Okay, let's take a look at the synthesizer section of the ARP Omni-2. Okay, if you look right here, I have it set to 4 feet. The default sound that comes out of the Omni is kind of a sawtooth sound. And that's what we're hearing right there. We have the option of that at 8 feet as well, which is a lower sawtooth sound. And I'm pretty sure that it is filtered in the same way that the viola is filtered on the other side. Here, let's listen. Yeah, it has a different tone. So it's not just 8 feet, it's 8 feet plus some sort of subtle filtering. And of course, you can use them in tandem. Which is a big sound. Something to keep in mind is we do have the sawtooth sound, but there's a button here marked hollow waveform, which I find so bizarre. I mean, by the end of the 70s, people should be pretty comfortable with a square wave. Although this isn't exactly a square wave either. It's something. I wish I had an oscilloscope here. Let's listen. Okay, here's what it sounds like just default. And here's the hollow waveform. It's kind of square toothy, kind of harmonic-y, if you ask me. Anyway, so, and we can hear that with both. It's a nice waveform. Next, let's talk about the bass voice. Like in the string section, the bass voice is only G down. Here, let's listen. That guy doesn't have an envelope happening to him. But this is the 8-foot bass voice. And we also have a 16-foot bass voice. And they can be used in tandem. That is a big sound. In fact, it's clipping a little bit. Let's turn the bass down. So this is both of them in tandem. And of course, they can be used at the same time as the synthesizer section. But unlike the string section, the synthesizer section doesn't go into the bass section of, the 8-foot and 4-foot do not stray into the 16 and 8-foot of the bass voice, like the viola and violin in the string section stray into the bass and cello of the string section. There you can see the split. Okay, but we have more going on in the synthesizers. Oh, well, I should just cover this for a second. Staccato just means that the bass part has, less sustain. Here, let's listen. Here's without staccato. Okay, it diminishes to a certain level and it just holds there. Staccato means it does that quicker. Try it again. And then with staccato, it is a subtle effect at best, but that's what it is. Okay, let's listen to the synthesizer section. And in the synthesizer section, we have a filter. And it has resonance, although it is not self-oscillating, it does have resonance. It's a pretty great sounding filter. We also have the ability to use this ADSR here. And before we talk about it as an envelope, before we talk about it as the controller of the volume, let's get straight into it controlling the filter. So setting your ADSR settings can control the filter cutoff point. That's what the ADSR slider does. It applies the attack, decay, sustain, and release of this envelope to the filter cutoff point. Let's go lower here. And this is a good time to talk about single trigger. Single trigger, which is on right now, allows you, so when nothing's happening and then something does happen, which is to say no keys are being depressed and then keys are depressed, that triggers the ADSR, which triggers the ADSR in the filter. Now, if any notes are played after that initial event while notes are still being held, they do not trigger the envelope again. So if there are keys being held, the envelope is not re-triggered. Without single trigger on, every time any note is played, it will re-trigger the envelope, which in this case will affect the filter. So if you're going to be playing like monophonically, the single trigger off is a better option. But if you're going to be playing chords that have other notes happening in the midst of the chords, it's better to have single trigger on. We also have the ability to control the filter cutoff point with an LFO. How much the LFO affects the VCF is controlled by this slider here. The speed of the LFO is controlled here. And if you have it on a really slow speed and you have it very slightly affecting the filter cutoff point, you can hear it affecting the filter cutoff point very slowly there. So yes, you have those functions, which are very nice. You have a pedal and accessory control, but since I don't have a pedal or an accessory connected, I'm not going to demonstrate that. But if you did, there's a lot of patch bay on the back, which this would certainly come into play with. Now let's talk about the ADSR just in regard to the amp. Like in the string section, if we push the attack up, the sound will come in slowly, and then decay is the point from the highest point the attack gets to 0. And since we have a big attack and a big decay, sound takes a long time to get to its loudest point, and then it fades away slowly. Certainly we can make that much shorter. And as with all synthesizers, if we push the sustain up, the note will hold as long as you hold the keys down. And then we get to the release. Now, I don't know if it's just this unit or if this is an ARP Omni-2 flaw, but my release, which should be the point from where I lift my fingers off the keys, the point from key release to the 0 of the sound. So if we push this way up, the sound should last a long time after I release the keys. But it doesn't. It is having some effect though, so I think maybe there's just a calibration thing. Here, listen. So yeah, it is doing something, but what I found, which is really bizarre, if I push up the release in the string section, I'll get some release here. And if I have the release up, it's like I'm holding the sustain pedal. The release up in the string section, and then I bring the release down here. There's still release, but it's caged within the other three settings of the ADSR. Listen. So you can hear kind of the chords of the notes I previously played. So you can kind of hear those other notes in the midst of my playing, which I think is kind of a cool effect. But yeah, having the release up in the string section gives me the release that this release is supposed to give, plus whatever this release is doing, which is particularly interesting. So of course we can play all these things at once. Let's put it on the hollow waveform and turn on the bass and the staccato and get some ADSR on the filter. Get some LFO going here. So there are a lot of things going on right there. Let's turn the bass down a little bit. Yeah, the synthesizer is a little bit quiet on this in comparison to some of the other sounds. But yeah, that bass sound, I really love it. It's very just bassy. You know what I mean? It's not synthesizer bass, it's bass. And so it's a really cool synthesizer sound. So that is basically, no pun, once again with the bass reference, the synthesizer section. And there's a lot of opportunity here to do a wider variety of sounds than you would expect from what looks like some very limited functionality. Here, let's turn the bass off for a second. When the bass is off, the synthesizer goes all the way down. When the bass is on, the synthesizer only goes to this middle G. Well, it's not actually middle G, but it's the G below middle C. But playing with attack to the envelope settings, you can get a wide variety of sounds. You don't always have to use resonance. You also don't always have to have both 8-foot and 4-foot on at the same time. So yeah, there are a lot of opportunities for exploration here, even though this functionality is relatively simple. And when you hear all of this together, including the string section, the true focus of this synthesizer becomes clear.